Hey allemaal en welkom in een nieuwe aflevering van Techmag. Deze aflevering is een specialeke. Normaal ging ik op bezoek bij Seth Godin in New York, maar het coronavirus heeft er anders over beslist, dus vindt het gesprek plaats via Zoom. Laten we eens kijken naar waar Seth en ik allemaal over babbelen. Facebook CEO Sheryl Sandberg, on Monday she said no one knows how big the impact of the coronavirus will be on the marketing industry. And do you?
How could anyone know?
Yeah.
I think we can make some guesses about what happens to the endless pursuit of physical items or even digital distractions after a tragedy like this, a slow-moving tragedy that all of us are involved in. It certainly doesn't make it likely that people are going to hustle their way forward by just selling short-term distraction. I think that history tells us that after we take a hard look at our mortality, we tend to get a little bit more serious about what's worth our time and effort.
Yeah, makes sense. Can you think of any long-term consequences?
Well, the long term might be a while. We're going to see a really significant disruption in people's livelihoods and in their expectations for what happens next. So I think strategically, what has not changed is we probably should do work that matters. We should probably do work we're proud of. We should probably choose the long term over the short term and build reputation and trust, as opposed to figuring out how to manipulate some social media network to get some attention.
Do you think that's what's still happening right now?
Oh, I think right now, you and I are talking March 19th, 2020, I think 18th. Right now, people are curled up in a ball under their desk. And that's a natural response for people to have. That never lasts. And I think that this pandemic is going to work its way out over 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks. And we have trained everyone in the world to deal with change much more rapidly than they ever did before. That breaking news used to be a week, then breaking news was tomorrow's newspaper, and now breaking news is 2 minutes. And so we have this, the media has taught us this insatiable desire for what about now, what about now, what about now? And in this moment, it's making us all sick, but it's also going to make us more likely to see beyond this a little bit sooner.
Yeah, right. So talking about the news, I'm wondering, because I just read a book about why you should stop reading the news. And you know the one by Rolf de Belly?
There's more than one, because it's an obvious truth.
Well, would you say you watching or reading the news entirely, or how are you consuming?
I am pretty confident that if someone spends 10 minutes a day actively keeping up, they're as well informed as they need to be. I think you should spend 3 or 4 hours a day learning about your craft and your trade and your practice and the thing that you are needed to be an expert on. But I don't think it matters what the percentage points were in the Arizona primary, and I don't think it matters what the current infection toll in Westchester County is. Because what are you going to do about it anyway? You don't need to know 2 hours ahead. When the stock market is going up, a lot of people become day traders. And day trading involves trading on information faster than anybody else. Well, we are guilty of day trading our emotions. We are day trading away our day. Whoever had the last thing said to us, the loudest microphone speaker, that's what we decide to do with our day. So if we hear a little bit of good news, the next 15 minutes we're happy, and then a piece of bad news, that's ridiculous. We need to get to work to make things better, to connect people, to inspire people. That's what we should be doing. Being 10 minutes more informed than somebody else is not a practical skill. It is a hobby.
What does that mean for marketing and the way our brain reacts to different marketing efforts on, for example, social media, general content marketing?
All right, so you and I might not be using the word marketing the same way. I don't think marketing and advertising are the same thing. I don't think grabbing attention and marketing are the same thing. I think marketing is what we make, how we make it, how we talk about it, what we believe we are doing, the change we seek to make in the world. And so media and some short-term marketers have hijacked attention, and they have hijacked our communication methods. But the downside of that, of course, is that they have degraded our culture, but I don't think it lasts forever. I think that human beings are starting to wake up. A whole generation is starting to wake up and saying, yeah, but that doesn't mean I have to read my email. And that doesn't mean I have to follow you on Twitter. And that doesn't mean I have to believe you. Because just because you have the money to interrupt somebody doesn't mean they want to hear from you.
All right. That's really interesting, because it also reminds me of a few days ago, you shared a powerful insight in your blog. You said something along the lines of, when things are uncertain, it's easy to react, but right now is the single best time to initiate. Could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit more?
Okay, so react and respond are different. When you react to a medicine, it's not working on you. When you respond to a medicine, it is. So responding means, what can I do with what just came in that makes it better? Initiating says, no one asked me to help, but I'm going to go help anyway. And, you know, an example, we launched today a virtual co-working space for free, and there's more than 1,000 people in it. And my team worked really, really hard to build it, but we didn't build it because it's a business. We built it because we could. And if enough people connect 1,000 other people, 10,000 other people, we're going to combat a lot of loneliness. So it's this initiative taking that someone who calls themselves a marketer, that's what we might be doing right now.
So would you say that we should focus more on making impact rather than making money?
You're not going to make money. For the next X number of weeks, you're not going to make money. You're just not, unless you have some stockpile of magic pills. You're not going to make money. People aren't waking up in the morning saying, I'd like to go shopping right now. Maybe I can get a deal on an imitation Birkin bag from Hermes. That is not happening. And so it's a mistake. It's a short-term hustle to say, how am I going to make money from this crisis? What you might be able to say is, how can I make a contribution? How can I coordinate and communicate and connect? Because the money will take care of itself if you're a good citizen.
Wow. And what does that mean for your business, for example?
Well, I am the person who's been insisting that my partners cancel my speaking gigs and that I send them back the money. They haven't asked me, I've asked them. And we postponed the freelancers workshop, not because it's not important, but because people aren't ready to think about that. And that's okay, because please go ahead. I didn't hear you.
You almost make me feel bad about not postponing this interview.
Well, I think this interview isn't hurting anybody. And maybe by giving me a chance to get under people's skin, someone who hears it will help somebody else. I mean, we are humans. We communicate with each other. And sometimes we get paid to do it, but often we don't. And something changed in our culture when we felt like it was our job to be in the community as opposed to our privilege to be in the community. And this is why, there's been some disagreement about the vocabulary of content marketing. When I talk about content marketing, what I mean is the content of what we make is marketing. I don't mean let's pretend to use content to trick people to pay attention to us. They're different. And if you are a contributor to your culture, your business takes care of itself. Most marketers do not have a problem with making a living if they are trusted and known and a viable contributor to their circle. They have trouble when they're unknown, when they're untrusted, and when they're short-term thinkers.
You almost made me speechless, and I can tell you that almost never happens. So, well, and that's what I was gonna tell you, and you've seen it too. Most companies are playing into the virus panic through email marketing, blog posts, and all that. So what you're saying is that it's not a question of monetizing it, but rather just making an impact for the long term, because you will automatically benefit from it in the long haul, right?
Yeah, I mean, but even if you don't, you did the right thing. And so I guess my point is, yesterday I got more than 800 pieces of spam.
Wow.
And I'm the guy who wrote the book Permission Marketing. And these companies that are spamming me with their stupid little COVID schemes and everything else, they're feeling like they're not doing anything that's horribly wrong. But they wouldn't walk into your house unasked, break down the door and try to sell you something. But the culture shifts. And so we've somehow come to the conclusion we can steal attention anytime we want. No, I don't think you can. I think that you don't have the right to steal someone's attention or trust. You don't have the right to manipulate them. You don't have the right to hoard things just because you can make a profit from them. I think we are part of a culture. If they found some planet somewhere else and people wanted to go to that planet and sell those people who aren't people something, then we could have a different discussion. But right now it's just us, people and people. And the more we do our work like someone's watching us, like our mom is watching us, the easier compass we have of what should we do next.
Wow, again, speechless. Well, you mentioned your book, This is Marketing. Are there any things in your book that you can think of that are no longer applicable because of the crisis?
Okay, so let me tell you what the book is about. The book's about the smallest viable audience, finding a group of people, not the largest group, the group of people who would miss you if you were gone, who would be delighted if you showed up with something that makes their lives better. The book is about the fact that most people who buy most things that aren't rice and beans and a bottle of water to survive, most of the time we buy things that help us with a story about ourselves. It's either a story of affiliation, who are we in sync with, who are we alike with, who is part of our circle, or it's a story of dominance and status, who are we better than, who are we ahead of, how did we win? And so what marketing is the practice of telling a true story to the people who need and want to hear it, a small group of people, such that you help them achieve their dreams and desires. Not one word of that has changed because we are facing an apocalyptic virus. Not one word of it. That humans are still humans, and most of us have what we need and none of us have what we want. And if you could figure out how to help people get what they want, then the world will probably reward you for it.
So when you were talking about marketers and maybe like larger companies, but what strategy do you think freelancers should adopt in order to survive all of this? Do you think they should also should focus more on making an impact?
Right. Okay. So a freelancer is somebody, and I am one on a good day, who works with their own fingers and their own mind to sell their work and their time. They're not building something bigger than themselves. And the disruption for freelancers over the next couple months is going to be severe. You're not going to get the typical organization or client to do speculative initiative work and hire you and pay you fairly in the next 8 weeks. Okay, that happened. Now what? Well, this is the moment to work on your portfolio. And by that, I mean three things. One, what are your skills like? What are you the best in the world at? What would happen if you got better at that thing you do? Much better. Do you think in 4 weeks of intensive effort, you could get better at that thing that makes someone track you down instead of hiring 40 people ahead of you on Fiverr? I am sure the answer is yes. Number two, show me your work. And if you don't have work that you're proud of that you can show me, do more work. Do it for a charity you care about. Do it for a make-believe website. Figure out how to put your work in the world in a generous way, not because you're working for free, but because you are building your portfolio. your history, your pattern. And then the third one is, how do you express to the world the first two? How do you express to the world what you're actually good at? And how do you show the world that you've done it? And when you do this work, what will happen is you will get better clients. And getting better clients is the only way for a freelancer to do better. The only option we have is to get better clients, because better clients challenge us to do better work. They talk about our work. They pay us fairly. They pay on time, and they hire us again. So if you are busy chasing bad clients, and in tough times, that's what you're tempted to do, lower your prices on Upwork, Elance, whatever you want to call it, that's not a good idea, because someone will race to the bottom faster than you.
Probably, yeah. So you already lived through the financial crisis of 2007. Are there any similarities?
Well, that one lasted a really long time. And the reason is, when you put the value of people's houses at risk for a very long time, it gets, it lasts until that is gone, because it's the most valuable physical object people own. In this case, there is a tragedy going on. It is unfolding, but it will pass. There will be a slog, and on the other side, the fear will subside. And so the work of a freelancer is limit your expenses, settle in, figure out how to be this reliable organizer and voice for the minimum viable audience, smallest viable audience you seek to serve, but don't expect that you're going to get a great gig in the next 6 weeks. But, for example, if you're the person who organizes the conversation among the 15 florists in town about how they're going to stay in business, well, then weddings, when they come back, and they will, who do you think the florists are going to count on to be a reliable wedding planner, right? You didn't do it to get clients, but you got to do something right now, because the wedding's gotten canceled. So there are all these lonely, disconnected florists. Go connect them. Doesn't cost anything to do that. We got to do something, build a platform, build a reputation.
So aside from the co-working, you mentioned you started up. Are there any other things you're trying to do or commit to in the near future to continue making an impact?
So we have 20,000 alumni. We have thousands of them actively involved in our workshops right now. We are connecting them and working with them all day, every day. We are trying to multiply that and have it pay forward. So if the 1,000 people in our co-working space can each influence 100 people, that's going to help. And what I am unable to do is medical first aid. If I knew how to go to the hospital and help people get better, I would do that. But in the meantime, I'm trying to teach people, that the ripples spread. Where do we create more ripples? How do we make the culture better? So that when they write our history 5 years from now and they say, what did you do the week between March 18th and March 25th? You can say you did something other than check the news.
Yeah, right. So would you say that you feel like you're being a well-known entrepreneur and marketer? Would you say that you sometimes feel pressured to do certain things because of your, image and reputation?
I feel an enormous obligation because of my privilege, but it's not because people know who I am. It's because I can do stuff. And
Yeah.
I let myself down every day. There's all this I'd like to do and teach and connect at a much higher level. But beating myself up only goes so far. I just promise to do it better tomorrow.
And how can someone like you disappoint yourself? I find it hard to believe.
Why is it related to someone's history, right? Like, all of us have opportunities, and I'm healthy. I was born on the right year to the right parents in the right city of the right race. And right doesn't mean better. It just means the one that had an advantage. And so were a lot of other people, millions and millions of other people. But there are also people in the slums of Kibera who have figured out how to weave together circles of people to make things better. that if you can do it, then it becomes an obligation and you should do it. And for a marketer to say, no, my job is to make more money. Well, Milton Friedman's dead, and he was wrong when he was alive, and he's wrong now. Our job is not to make the most money. Our job is to make the most difference.
So what do you think, and I think I asked you before, but what do you think that like tech giants like Facebook, what their role in, I mean, not such the coronavirus, but just in general in today's society, what role should they play?
I think there is an obligation that comes from being the biggest, most important media company in the world. And I don't think the obligation is to figure out how to sell more ads. I think the obligation is how to weave a culture that's better today than it was yesterday. And I haven't talked to Cheryl about this, but I would imagine that at this point they're realizing that they made a mistake 5 years ago. And that if they had spent the last 5 years building light patterns instead of dark patterns, rewarding people who make things better instead of making things worse, I think we'd all be better off. And so, no, I don't run Facebook, but I used to run a social network before Facebook. We were the 40th biggest website in the United States. And we bent over backwards every single day to create a community we were proud of because we had the dials. We could figure out what are we going to amplify and what are we not going to amplify. And I think it's an obligation. If you're going to run a media company, that's what you got to do.
So tell me more about the social network thing, and more specifically, what have you learned from it?
Well, it was before Pinterest. It was called Squidoo. And it was a place where you could build a page about anything you cared about. And we would make money from affiliate deals like Amazon, and then we would give half that money to charity. The goal was to raise hundreds of millions of dollars. And I learned that anonymous people almost always act poorly, and that anonymity is the single worst thing the internet has amplified. That anonymity is not our friend. Yes, I get the fact that every once in a while, someone in a bad situation needs to be able to speak up, blow a whistle, ask for help, and those people benefit from anonymity. But for the rest of us, like if you're in a bank and someone walks in with a stocking over their head, you don't go, oh, good, an anonymous bank customer. You say, run, 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 because people don't show up with a stocking over their head to do a good thing. And I'm not a fan of anonymity in real life or online. And that was the biggest thing that I took away from the whole experience.
And like putting things in a broader perspective, what are your, because mostly the biggest lessons come from the biggest failures. Do you have any stories or inspiring advice about that?
Well, I think it's fair to say I have failed more than most people who are listening to this. I have failed in selling books. I have failed in titling books. I have failed in building startups. I failed to see the internet, the web, even though I was running one of the very first internet companies in the world. I have failed in personal interactions with others where I failed to see them. I missed opportunities over and over again. And so I failed through action and inaction. And I guess what I've learned is, one, failure is rarely fatal. Unless you're driving in the Indy 500 or parachuting, failure is rarely fatal. And two, if you learn something from a failure, then you have a better chance of doing it better next time.
Yeah, right. So how do you, because every once in a while we all need to take a break from things. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think right now all of us need to take a break, don't we?
Right.
I love to listen to music, and I spend a lot of time doing it. But really, this is my practice, my love, my opportunity. I don't do this because it's my job. I do this because I want to. And so I don't feel like I need a break from it very often. I wake up in the morning itching to do it again.
That's the spirit. I have the same thing, and I'm damn proud of it. So who would you say is your biggest example? Because I can think of like thousands of people who would say you're their biggest example.
My biggest example is you and 10,000 people like you. It's the people who read my stuff, the people who interact, the people I encounter who are making things better in ways I could never imagine. These are the people that inspire me every day.
Wow. And how long I was gonna ask before, but I totally forgot about it. So I'm jumping right back to the coronavirus. I'm so sorry. How long do you think this is gonna go on for? Are you talking about weeks, months?
Yeah, I think that question opens us up to the trap of when will things go back to normal?
This is normal, right?
It never goes back to normal, right? Like after they did atomic testing in the 1940s and 50s, we never went back to a world where there weren't hydrogen bombs. And after the Cold War, we didn't go back to a world before the Cold War. We went to a different place. So this is the next thing. And then after that, there's going to be another thing. And resilience is all we can hope for. The resilience to realize there's going to be something else tomorrow.
Okay. Last question. Where do you find inspiration for your blog?
So my blog is pretty simple, 7,500 posts into it. I am curious. And if I don't understand how something works, if I don't understand why someone is acting the way they're acting, why a business is making a profit, why something is growing and something is failing, I really want to understand why. And so I will ask myself that question. And then I say, is anybody else interested in this? Is anybody else interested in why some people get stuck and some people don't? Or what a way forward might be? And then I try to write a riff about it. I'm basically telling people things they already know, but I'm trying to do it in a way that lets them share it with other people. Because if we can share wisdom with other people, it makes us feel good too. And so I just tee them up and I share them. And I got to tell you, half of them are below average. Some of them aren't very useful at all. But because I show up every day, my batting average isn't the point. The point is, am I able to make a contribution? And that's why I think everyone should have a blog. It makes you better.
You strike me as a very rational person. Would you say that is one of your most important traits?
Yeah, I'm an engineer. I studied engineering from a very young age. Bridges don't stand up because an astrologer wants them to stand up. Bridges stand up because they are well designed. And you can come up with all the things you want about the world that are irrational, but it's way easier to make forward motion if you focus on things that are rational, and then also realize that there is a rationality to our irrational placebo effect. There's a rationality to how we decide to believe something. So I change my mind, I'm wrong, but if you're not rational, then you can't acknowledge that you're wrong, because then it's just belief. And I think that belief underserves us. It underserves our faith and it underserves our humanity, because it requires that we just get brittle. And rational thinking says, teach me why I'm wrong. I would love to change my mind. And that feels like a compass, which is way more useful than a map.
I can say one thing for sure, that's for sure, and that is that this interview made me change my mind about things. So thank you very much, Seth. Would you maybe do like this for a while so I can like make a trailer out of it? Like say hi.
This is the new handshake, right? What we need is live long and prosper, right? A chance to see the other with respect. So thank you for taking the time to do this. Thank you for spreading the word. I really appreciate it.
Ziezo, het zit erop. Ik heb er enorm veel uit geleerd. En ja, eigenlijk mijn perspectief van bepaalde dingen is echt veranderd. Ik ben super benieuwd naar wat jullie ervan vinden. Dus deel zeker uw mening in de comments. En geef ineens een like, nu je toch bezig bent. Tot de volgende!